The ride to Medicine Hat. Sarah's hands bled as she clawed at the packed earth behind the cast-iron stove, dirt embedding itself beneath her fingernails. The back wall of the soddy, 3 feet of compressed prairie sod reinforced with wooden planks, resisted her efforts with stubborn density. Each scrape of the shovel blade against root and stone sent vibrations up her arms, already trembling from exhaustion and adrenaline. "Lower," Eleanor whispered, crouched beside her with Thomas pressed against her side. "The foundation's weakest near the bottom where the drainage trench runs." Sarah adjusted her angle, driving the spade downward. The blade bit deeper, and suddenly a chunk of sod the size of a bread loaf came away. Cool night air rushed through the gap. Freedom measured in inches. From the front of the house came the murmur of male voices. Daniel Thornton stood at the window, rifle ready, watching the shadowy figures gathered near the barn. 4 men, maybe 5. They'd stopped calling out demands an hour ago, settling into an uneasy vigil, waiting for dawn, perhaps, or for reinforcements. "How much longer?" Daniel's voice was steady, but Sarah heard the tension beneath it. 10 minutes, Eleanor said. Maybe less. Sarah's shoulders burned as she worked, widening the hole with controlled desperation. The opening had to be large enough for her to squeeze through, but small enough that the men outside wouldn't notice the disturbance until she was long gone. She thought of her father, James Mackenzie, riding home through the darkness, exhausted from his failed negotiations with the bank, unaware that armed men waited to ambush him on the trail. The image propelled her forward. She attacked the wall with renewed fury, dirt cascading around her knees. "That's enough," Eleanor said finally, gripping Sarah's wrist. Her mother's face was pale in the lamplight, eyes bright with fear she was trying desperately to hide. "You can fit through that." Sarah set down the shovel and flexed her bleeding hands. The hole gaped before her, barely 2 feet across, angled downward beneath the foundation. Beyond it lay 30 feet of open ground to the chicken coop, then another 20 yards to where their horses were penned. After that, 3 miles of prairie darkness before she reached the main trail to Medicine Hat. 3 miles with armed men behind her. Eleanor pulled Sarah close, crushing her against her chest. Sarah felt her mother's heart hammering, felt the tremor in her embrace. "Stay low, stay quiet, get to your father and bring him back with help. Don't try to come back alone." "I won't," Sarah promised. And Sarah, Eleanor pulled back, gripping her daughter's shoulders. "If they see you, you ride. You don't stop, you don't look back. You ride straight to Medicine Hat, and you find the constable. Do you understand?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. Thomas threw his arms around her waist. "Don't let them shoot you," he whispered fiercely. "I won't, little bear." She kissed the top of his head, breathing in the familiar smell of him. Soap and dried grass and childhood innocence that was being stripped away too soon. Daniel moved from the window, his face unreadable in the shadows. "Your father's horse, the bay mare. She's the fastest?" "Yes, Dancer. She'll be in the near corner of the pen, closest to the coop. The men are watching the front and the barn. They're not expecting anyone to come out the back." He paused, then added quietly, "But if they do see you, they'll shoot. They can't let you reach Medicine Hat." Sarah met his eyes. In the past 2 days, this stranger had become something more. An ally, a friend, perhaps something else she didn't have time to examine. He'd stayed when he could have fled. He'd armed himself to defend people he barely knew. Now his concern for her was written plainly across his features. "I'll be careful," she said. He nodded slowly, then did something unexpected. He reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his calloused fingers gentle against her cheek. "Come back safe, Sarah Mackenzie." The moment stretched between them, electric and fragile. Then Eleanor was pressing a canteen into Sarah's hands, and Thomas was pushing her father's heavy coat at her, and there was no more time for anything but action. Sarah dropped to her knees and crawled into the hole. The earth pressed against her from all sides. Cold, suffocating, absolute. She wriggled forward on her elbows, feeling roots scrape against her back, tasting dirt. The opening seemed to narrow around her, and for one terrifying moment she thought she was stuck, buried alive in the wall of her own home. Then her hands broke through into open air. She dragged herself forward, hips scraping against packed sod, boots kicking for purchase. The night swallowed her as she emerged behind the soddy, gulping down air that tasted of dust and freedom and fear. The prairie stretched before her, silvered by starlight. No moon tonight, a blessing and a curse. She couldn't see clearly, but neither could they. Sarah pressed herself flat against the ground and listened. Male voices drifted from the front of the house, indistinct. The rustle of the wind through dried grass. The distant yip of a coyote. Her own pulse thundering in her ears. She began to crawl. The chicken coop loomed ahead, a darker shadow against the darkness. 20 feet, 15. She moved in inches, every muscle coiled tight, expecting at any moment to hear a shout of discovery, the crack of a rifle. 10 feet. A horse whinnied from the direction of the barn, one of the men's mounts restless. Sarah froze, her cheek pressed against the cold earth. Footsteps crunched through dried grass, moving along the side of the house. "See anything?" a voice called. "Nothing." They're holed up tight. Kane should have been back by now. Maybe he's still in the mine. Or maybe those women did for him. A pause, heavy with implication. Boss won't like that. Boss won't like any of this. We were supposed to handle this quiet. Footsteps retreated. Sarah released a breath she hadn't known she was holding and resumed her crawl. She reached the chicken coop and pressed herself against its rough planks, giving herself a moment to orient. The horse pen was directly ahead, a split-rail fence enclosing 6 horses, 3 belonging to the Mackenzies, 3 to Blackwood's men. Dancer stood near the fence, her dark coat nearly invisible against the night. Sarah's father had bought the mare 2 years ago from a Métis trader. Swift, sure-footed, with the endurance to run all day. If any horse could carry her to Medicine Hat before dawn, it was Dancer. Sarah gathered herself and ran. She covered the distance in seconds, vaulting the fence with a desperation-fueled grace she didn't know she possessed. Dancer's head came up, ears swiveling forward. Sarah grabbed the mare's mane and swung herself onto the horse's bare back, her father's coat tangling around her legs. "Hiya!" she hissed, kicking the mare's flanks. Dancer exploded forward, crashing through the fence rails with a splintering crack that shattered the night's silence. Shouts erupted behind her. "There! Someone's running! Stop! Stop or we shoot." Sarah leaned low over Dancer's neck, urging the mare faster. The prairie opened before them, a vast darkness offering no shelter, no concealment, only speed. A rifle cracked. The bullet whined past her ear, close enough that she felt its passage. Another shot and another. Dancer surged forward, her powerful legs eating up the ground, her breath coming in great heaving gasps. Sarah risked a glance back. 3 riders were mounting up, silhouettes against the lamplight spilling from the soddy's windows. They'd be after her in seconds. She faced forward and gave Dancer her head, trusting the mare's instincts in the darkness. The prairie flew beneath them, grass and stone and hidden gopher holes that could snap a horse's leg in an instant. Sarah's eyes watered from the wind, her hands tangled in Dancer's mane, her body moving with the horse's rhythm as if they were one creature. A mile passed, then 2. Behind her, the pursuit continued. She could hear the thunder of hooves, gaining ground. Dancer was fast, but she was carrying a rider bareback while the men behind had saddles and fresh mounts. The main trail materialized ahead, a pale ribbon cutting through the darkness. Sarah angled Dancer toward it, praying her father was close, praying she'd reach him before Blackwood's men reached her. Then she saw it, a single rider approaching from the south, a dark shape against the stars. "Papa!" she screamed. "Papa! It's a trap!" The rider's head came up. He reined his horse to a halt, confused by the apparition thundering toward him. His daughter, riding bareback through the night, pursued by armed men. James Mackenzie's confusion lasted only a moment. Then, he was spurring his horse forward, closing the distance between them, his hand moving to the rifle slung across his back. Sarah reached him as the pursuit thundered up behind her. She wheeled Dancer around, and suddenly she and her father were side by side, facing 3 armed riders who were pulling their mounts to a halt 30 yards away. For a long moment, no one moved. The horses blew and stamped, their breath steaming in the cold air. Sarah's lungs burned, her hands shook, but she sat straight, meeting the eyes of the men who'd laid siege to her home. "What's the meaning of this?" James's voice cut through the darkness, sharp with authority and confusion. "Who are you, and why are you chasing my daughter?" The lead rider, a stocky man with a thick beard, shifted in his saddle. "Mr. Mackenzie, we've been waiting for you. Mr. Blackwood wants to speak with you about your property." "At gunpoint? In the middle of the night?" "There's been some trouble at your homestead. We were trying to keep everyone safe." "Safe?" Sarah's voice shook with rage and exhaustion. "You laid siege to our home. You threatened my mother and brother." "Now, miss, that's not—" "Where's Robert Kane?" James interrupted, his eyes narrowing. "I know Kane works for Blackwood. Is he part of this?" The men exchanged glances. The bearded man said carefully, "Kane went to speak with your wife about a business matter." "What business matter?" Sarah's hand found her father's arm. "Papa, we need to go back. Now, Mama and Thomas are alone with Daniel, and these men." "Daniel? Daniel Thornton?" James looked at his daughter, seeing her truly for the first time. The dirt caking her clothes, the blood on her hands, the wild desperation in her eyes. Understanding dawned, along with something else. Fear. "Sarah, what happened?" "We found it, Papa. We found the mine, and we found proof that Blackwood murdered the man who discovered it. Kane tried to kill us to keep us quiet, and now—" her voice broke. "Now they're waiting at the house, and if we don't get back with help, I don't know what they'll do." The bearded man's hand moved toward his rifle. "That's a damned lie. Mr. Blackwood is a respected businessman, who's murdered at least once and is willing to do it again." James's voice had gone cold, deadly. His rifle came up, not quite pointing at the men but ready. "You boys have a choice. You can ride with us back to my homestead and we can settle this peaceful like with the constable, or you can try to stop us, and I guarantee you won't like how that ends." The standoff stretched. Sarah could see the calculation in the men's eyes. 3 against 2, but one of the two was a girl, and the other was a homesteader who'd just lost everything. Easy odds. Except James Mackenzie didn't look like a man who'd lost everything. He looked like a man who'd found something worth fighting for. "We'll ride back," the bearded man said finally. "But this ain't over. Mr. Blackwood can take his concerns to the law," James finished. "Sarah, ride ahead, fast as you can. Get to the Thornton place and wake Samuel. Tell him to ride for the constable in Medicine Hat. Tell him to bring every man he can find." "But Papa—" "Go, now." Sarah hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then she wheeled Dancer around and kicked the mare into a gallop, leaving her father to face Blackwood's men alone in the darkness. The prairie swallowed her once more, and this time she rode not away from danger, but toward help, toward hope, toward the slim chance that they might survive this night and see the dawn. Behind her, she heard her father's voice, steady and strong. "Now, gentlemen, let's discuss what's really going on here." And then the night closed in, and Sarah rode alone through the darkness, carrying with her the weight of her family's survival and the knowledge that everything, their land, their lives, their future, balanced on the edge of a knife.